What What's up, design class? Alright, so in today's tutorial we're going to be working with photo retouching, and we're going to be learning how to turn an image from that to that. Let's just go back one more time. From that to that. Actually in reverse, from this to that. See, and there's still a lot of, actually now that I zoom in, there's still a lot of little things that we could have done to perfect this image a little bit more, but I'm going to be showing you how we can accomplish something like this, all with just using Photoshop techniques. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First thing we want to do is remove all the small little defects on the face. The way we're going to do that is by using our healing brush, or actually spot healing brush. Spot healing brush. Go ahead and select that. We're going to create a new layer on top of this image that we currently have. Make sure that with your spot healing brush you have a little check mark where it says sample all layers. What that's going to allow us to do is to be able to draw on this blank layer. Allow us to be able to draw on this blank layer, and we'll be able to make changes to the bottom layer without actually affecting it. So let's get right to it. We're gonna go ahead and zoom in and get down to the nitty-gritties. This is gonna take a little while, so I'm just gonna kind of fast forward, but you guys can see as I'm doing this, you're just kind of drawing over it, select, and da-da-da-da. Alright, so I'll be back in a couple of seconds after this is done. Okay, so I'm back, and there's still little things here and there. I'm just trying to do my best, but there we go. Alright, so if we now select this, we can see what we've done by selecting the little eyeball. Now one thing I know I'm mentioning quite late, but so most of you know it, but for those of you that don't, Control plus on your keyboard zooms in, and Control minus zooms out, so in and out. And then while you're zoomed in, if you hold spacebar, you get the little hand, and you can actually click and drag around to move around as you wish. So that's actually a really good technique to know, which is the spacebar to move around and be able to move around while you're zoomed in. Because when working with things like this, you want to get down into the pores, pun intended, to like just go ahead and remove all this stuff here. So yeah, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and move on to the next part. If you feel that you've done a good job and everything is exactly as you want it to be, we can now go ahead and put merge layer. So right click and merge. Well, I'm going to put merge down because if I merge layer, I'm going to actually merge this one that I have up here, and I don't want to merge that. So I'm going to go ahead and put merge down, but you should put merge or flatten image, or any one of these that will merge this one with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put merge down. Boom, now it's merged into this one image. So the next step is called frequency separation. Maybe I'll put up in the display frequency separation. Alright, so frequency separation. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this layer twice by go ahead and pressing Ctrl J, where I have two copies. And just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and title this one background, or we can name it original, and let's go ahead and name this one blur, and we'll name this one sharpen. There we go. So now we're gonna go ahead and select or minimize, or I mean not minimize, but press the little eyeball on sharpen, and we'll just have the blur. under blur, we're going to go to filter, we're going to go to blur, and we're going to go to Gaussian blur. And so the goal here, and this can vary a lot depending on the picture you choose, but the goal here is to blur the image just enough to where you can still see detail, but it still looks very blurry, just like so. So we'll put it at 5.0. You guys can go ahead and copy these numbers because you're working with the same image. So right here is just too blurry. You can't see anything. Here, around 5, it's blurry, but you can still see all the detail. So we're going to go ahead and press OK. And we'll go ahead and leave that one as is. Now we're going to go ahead and open up Sharpen. And we're going to go over into Image. And we're going to put Apply Image. Apply Image is going to allow us for this to pop up. You should see some that looks like that. Merge. And this might be set to normal. And it should just look like this when you press Apply Image. So what we're going to do is go to Merge. And we're going to select Blur. So select Blur. Boom. There we go. So after Blur has been selected, we're going to go to Blending Modes. And we're going to select Subtract. Subtract. Just like so. And once we press subtract, you should be able to put scale to 2 and offset to 128. And then you should look something that looks just like that. If you've achieved this effect, then go ahead and press OK. After you pressed OK, we're going to go ahead and go over to our blend modes, and we're going to select linear light. Linear light is going to just bring it back to where it looks normal. But obviously it doesn't because we've made a lot of changes. So we're going to go ahead and select both of these by holding Control, selecting both, or we can hold Shift and we select both of them. And we're going to press Control G so we can go ahead and group that. We're going to rename this group and we're going to name it Frequency Separation. There we go. So now this is where things start to get rather interesting. So if you notice in his skin, you might notice little areas. Let's just make a new layer so I can draw. This part you don't have to copy. It's just for your purposes to be able to understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and make this kind of rather small. But you should be able to see here in his skin areas that look like this, which are rather red. Little areas here that are kind of red. Areas here where he has like double dots from where I made a mistake. Areas here that look kind of dark, more red right there. Little areas right here. This little blob right there. Some more little blobs in this area. Right here, this little blob, and another blob right there. This little blob right there. So these are just little things that we want to correct to make his skin look nicer, right? Because that's the goal we're trying to achieve here. There's more little blobs here and another little blob right there. So the way we're going to do this is, I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. So we're going to open up our frequency separation, and we're going to go ahead and select our blur. With our blur selected, we're going to go ahead and grab over here our normal lasso tool. I know this is one of the times that we actually get to use this one because we usually don't. And you should see feather up here. I'm not entirely sure if CS5 has it, but hopefully it does. And if you see feather up here, we're going to set this to around 38. What this is going to allow us to do, let me just show you what happens if I have it at 0. If feather is set to 0 and I select something, hey, it just selected exactly what I selected. If I set this over to 38, we select something, watch how the shape is going to get smaller, and it kind of turns into a perfect shape. That means the edges are now feathered out. They're not sharp. So we can make changes and it'll look actually rather good. So in this areas, we're going to grab like this little blob of skin that looks kind of different right here. And we're going to select it, go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian Blur. In Gaussian Blur, we can just adjust this accordingly to where we feel the skin looks rather good. So that little area, 8.5, looks kind of good. Then I'll select this part over here and do the same thing. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we're going to just adjust this to where we see that the skin looks rather good, soft and good. We'll go ahead and grab this little sharpened area right here and do the same thing. And we're just going to repeat this until the skin looks rather soft and clean that. There we go, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and select this little blob right here and filter, and then right here you can see Gaussian blur. If you want to apply the same exact effect, you can just click on this first one or the shortcut, which is Control F, I believe, or Control Alt F. I'm not sure on the Windows, but you'll see the shortcut up here in your computer. So you can press that and it'll just recreate the same exact blur. I'll go ahead and grab his entire forehead here and then just go to filter and Gaussian blur that. Control D to deselect. Grab this little part right here, Control and F to blur it. This part right here, then Control and F right here. So in this area, you want to make sure you don't select areas that that have a lot of detail, because you want to keep that detail. So Control F and just keep going, right? We're just gonna soften this up. Control F and maybe a little bit over here. Control F and then deselect. All right, so now we have an image that looks rather nicer, right? From there to there. So it looks more softer on the skin and stuff like that. So now we go into sharpen. Let's go ahead and select sharpen. And we're going to go over to our clone stamp. And a lot of you may know how to use this clone stamp. It's actually one of the nicest features Photoshop has. I'm going to zoom in. What we're going to do with the clone stamp is holding Alt, just select an area of the skin that looks rather nice. And then, you know, color in this imperfection. So Alt and this little white stuff. So, I mean, of course, whatever mistakes you made, you can just fix them here. All I'm doing is always pressing Alt on an area that looks nice and removing areas that look weird. So Alt right here and then come and fix that. Alt right here and just come kind of fix that and fix that and that. And there's little areas of hair that look kind of weird, so I'll go ahead and remove those. So we're just perfecting this image, right? So let's see. So there's little dots here and here. Maybe this one's. I know these are like beauty marks, but I'm just gonna remove them anyways. I'd prefer to show you, have you guys practice how to remove these things. So right here, there's kind of some little white areas. I'm just gonna remove those, just like so. And so now this is rather clean. Go ahead and come over to some of this areas over here and just kind of color in there and here and so on and so forth. Alright, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and kind of hide this out, and we have a rather good, decent image. So now this is where we start working with our little hue and saturations and levels and curves and all this fun stuff. So we're going to actually grab our curves right here and make sure that you're selected on this folder. We're going to grab our curves, and our curves, we're just going to kind of slightly pick this up just a little bit to brighten up the image, and then bring this down just a little bit so we can darken those darks just a bit right there, and then we can go ahead and close it out. And so that's before and after. Looks way better in my opinion. It looks a lot nicer. Now we're going to go ahead and bring up our levels and see if we can make any adjustments here. So you see there are blacks. We can go ahead and bring those blacks just a little bit in more and bring this just a little bit to the right. So if you want to copy my numbers, that looks pretty good. So 13, 120, and 255. And so we're now going to actually select those two and press Control G and just put levels and curves. And so you can see before, after, way better, right? We're making a lot of good changes here, making this image look a lot nicer. So the next step is what I call dodge and burn. Dodge and burn allows us to make some stuff darker and some stuff lighter, but wherever we want it. So we're going to go ahead and create a curves and pick this up all the way up, like crazy up, just like so. And then we're going to make another curves. We're going to put this one all the way down, just like so. And now in this white area, we're going to actually press Control I so we can invert it. Control I so we can invert it. And that allows us not to see what we just did. So now we're going to grab our brush and we're going to set our flow over to around 2%. 2% means that it's rarely going to make any changes whatsoever. So this is supposed to be our darks. So we'll go ahead and rename this over to darks and this one to lights. So we'll go ahead and grab our darks. Make sure that it's set to black and your brush is set to white. And make sure that your flow is at 2. Make sure you have a normal brush. I'm actually going to go ahead and make my brush bigger. And I'm just going to color in the hair. And you're just going to keep like tracing over and over and over and over and over and over again on the hair part. Maybe a little bit on the glasses here. A little bit on this side of his face. No, that's too much, but you can see what I did there. So I'll just do one time. No, that's still too much. Maybe a little bit here. That's too much. Alright, so I won't put any in this area, but I'll add some to his clothes down here. Just like so. Maybe a little bit to this part of his clothes. Just like so. A little bit to his bowl. There we go. So now we're going to grab our lights. And with our lights, we're going to go ahead and color in some of this little highlights. Maybe a little bit right here. Give it some little Shazam, you know. There we go. Oh, that's too much in the lips. Maybe bring in a little bit of white right here to kind of straighten those out. There we go. So now if you can see, I'm going to group both of these. Control G. And I'll name this Dodge and Burn. So you can see here, we go before and after, the little changes we've made. It looks pretty good to me. I'll open up the darks and I'll make my brush a lot bigger. And I'm actually going to color in the edges over here. Just like so. I'm going to grab my lights and just kind of like color in around him a little bit. Give him a little glow. Just so. And so now you can see this is the before and afters. And now for our last step is to just kind of go ahead and go over to our history, which is this one here. If you don't see history, you can go over to history right here, bring it up. And if you come all the way to the top, you can press right here, and that's your original. And that's your after. Original, after. Original, after. Original, after. There you go. So that's the changes that we've made. So let's go ahead and group all these stuff together. Control G. And let's see how much I changed it. So I think I did a little better on the first one. Maybe not, maybe not. The second one looks pretty decent as well. But there you go. So this is how you can use all these techniques to make an image go from being just okay to being a whole lot better. After you finish this tutorial, there's a second image provided to you as well, and you can go ahead and complete that image and then make sure you turn in both. Make sure you turn in this one first and then you turn in the second one for 2 separate grades. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay tuned for the next one, and if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. See you. Bye-bye.